as historic floods inundated Venice more than half a century ago, one reader in Scotland wrote to the Guardian newspaper in London to express worry about the fate of the astonishing, but soon-to-vanish Italian city. This is certainly the moment to draw attention not to the cats of Venice but to its buildings, which are slowly but surely disintegrating, the reader wrote. Once the pearl of the Adriatic, undoubtedly one of the wonders of the world, stucco is now peeling off its palaces. Will somebody do something quickly? That letter to the editor was penned in the wake of the record-setting 1966 flood that devastated Venice and cities like Florence and Trento. The unusual mix of high tides and river levels plus powerful winds from the southeast pushed floodwaters to 6 feet, 4 inches. 2 days later, Venice was left awash in stinking, salty slime deposited by the Adriatic Sea. Earlier this week, Venice faced another monumental aqua alta, or high water, this time coming just inches shy of the 1966 record. Dispatches from the scene describe people tromping around in cheap rain boots as they walk single file on footbridges elevated over flooded piazzas or wade through knee-high water. An estimated 70% of the city was submerged, and Venetians endured another exceptional tide Sunday. But flooding in Venice is not merely an inexpensive inconvenience. The disaster that struck Venice is a blow to the heart of our country, Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte said in a statement Wednesday. It hurts to see the city so damaged, its artistic heritage compromised, its commercial activities on its knees. Michael Oppenheimer, a professor of geosciences and international affairs at Princeton University who has traveled to Venice extensively, warned that if Venice doesn't complete its already delayed coastal defense system as sea levels rise, the city will become useless as a place for people to live and to enjoy its cultural splendors. The threat is if Venice becomes uninhabitable by normal human beings. One of the great things about Venice is that real people live there and go about their daily business, Oppenheimer told. Venice's population has already been shrinking for years, increasingly driven out by a growing number of high tide days and the increased living costs and congestion brought on by tourists. But climate change has a way of making the city less accessible for everyone as the very attractions both tourists and locals enjoy dissolve, Oppenheimer said. More than half a dozen popular sites were damaged by the latest flood, including the 11th century St. Mark's Basilica, the gritty palace along Venice's Grand Canal, a private residence-turned-luxury hotel, and the Venetian Gothic-style Doge's Palace. Workers assessing the damage that the corrosive, salty floodwater had on the ancient marble floors of St. Mark's Basilica found chipped and missing parts of the marble once the waters receded. There's also concern about the long-term damage to the pillars supporting the structure and some of the flood's damaged marble that was recently replaced after a round of intense flooding in 2018. Mario Piana, who heads the restoration, previously told the Post that the church is nearly covered with a mosaic of gold and marble from floor to ceiling, with much of the flooring dating to 1094. I'm worried for the basilica, Piana said. The aqua altar does not create immediate, obvious damage. On the outside, you do not immediately see anything. But it is comparable to radiation exposure. In a week, you lose your hair. In a year, you might be dead. Elsewhere in Venice, volunteers carefully leafed through pages of centuries-old sheet music that had been soaked by floodwater. The Italian Society of Authors and Editors said Venice's bookstores and libraries were gravely damaged. Venice is used to being constantly surrounded by water, but this is really something else, Toto Bergamo Rossi, director of Venetian Heritage, said. The main issue is salt water. When salt permeates the materials of these buildings, be them marble, tiling, plaster or wood, it crystallizes and ascends vertically once the weather gets drier, from the ground to the first floor and so on. It's almost like a cancer for these structures, all the more so when they are so old. The entire wall system can be affected.